All right, so Chris, I've got your number 5 is Saltburn. So then Tim,
Correct.
your number 5.
God damn it.
Uh-oh.
My number 5 is Next Goal Wins. And then what's my number 4? Hold on.
So we're just not.
Just no rationale, no justification. You're just gonna,
Look,
you're just gonna lay that out there.
out the window.
You just flop that on the counter like Justin Hartley's dick in Bad Moms Christmas.
Oh God.
Thunk. Next goal wins.
I did. We sat next to each other seeing that too.
We did. We went with a bunch of cheer moms. That was fun.
We did.
I showed my ass, right?
Yeah.
I believe so.
Huh. Wow. Keep going.
All right. Number 4, Tim. Next goal wins. We're just blowing right by.
Look, first of all, if you want to feel a good movie, fucking watch Next Goal Wins. I stand by it. Fuck you. My number 4 was American
Was it
Fiction.
the
I was gonna say, we-
runnings of bend it like Beckham?
It was good. I liked it.
Ugh.
I laughed. I cried. I had a good time. Make fun of my pick, you fucking catty tack. Jesus Christ. American Fiction was my number 4.
I was gonna say you would spend more time on your number 5 if you'd like to, because you've already talked about your number 4. So
No,
next
yeah,
goal wins.
Let's go back to next goal wins.
The edit later is going to be so
fucking
confusing
snob.
to everybody.
Sell me on next goal wins.
Hold on, Chris, move the mic further away.
I
A little
stand
bit, just a
by
little further away.
anybody
You're
that
good, you're
thinks
good.
Caddyshack 2 is better than Caddyshack.
It's the superior film.
Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. No, stop.
As is Revenge of the Nerds too.
So there's something to be said there.
Let's rate.
So Taika Waititi did next goal wins, huh?
Yeah, look, I'm not going to win these guys over. They've already judged me for it. I'm just going to say it was a feel good movie and leave it at that.
Okay.
And then
Next goal
American Fiction is my number 4 for reasons that we talked about before.
Yes. My number 3.
We're at 4.
Yeah,
Oh, your
yeah.
number 3
No, no, no,
is American
just-
Fiction. Yeah.
My number 3 is American Fiction because we fell for it.
We fell for it.
So
It's okay to like the movie, guys.
one might say check it out. Indeed.
It's a great movie. I love
American
fucking
Fiction.
loved it.
And
I
apparently,
loved it, and I hate myself.
apparently next goal wins and American Fiction. Check it out, according to him. Okay, Chris, you're number 4.
12 years a slave apologizing to everybody.
My number 4, I was not so keen on watching because as much as I loved Homecoming on Prime, I don't love Julia Roberts in a lot. Like she's not my favorite. I could take her or leave her. She was great in Homecoming. And then I saw that she was headlining along with Mahershala Ali and Ethan Hawke, Leave the World Behind. It was on Netflix. It was easily accessible. I waited a little bit. But then I started seeing people pop up saying, oh, shit, have you watched this? Blah, blah, blah. And then I realized that it was from Sam Esmail, who made Mr. Robot, but then also Homecoming, which for me was the best TV show that came out that year. I mean, it was like Kubrickian in how it was shot, filmed, structured, the suspense that like just sort of followed you through that show, the acting, like I loved it. And so I was like, oh, cool. Okay. Maybe this is worth my time. And within the first 5 minutes, I was like, oh shit. Okay. This is better than I think I was expecting. And so I've watched the movie a couple of times now, and it's an amazing representation of kind of almost more realistically what would happen if sort of shit just went sideways from a government perspective, whether it was a plague or a war or whatever. Like when shit starts to go down, starting with your access to technology, people just lose their minds. And this movie captured that just building dread from the minute they got to the house. And then, just from that point on, there's all sorts of layers of, race relations and government, interaction and interference and controlling of kind of the world situation. And it just, I just literally sat there with my fists clenched watching this movie the first time and then again the second time. And there's not too many movies that do that for me. And like I watched shows, I watched The Last of Us, I watched The Walking Dead. They're all great, but this captured sort of that feeling for me of kind of what would happen if just everybody failed us and we were on our own more than a lot of other properties. So I loved Leave the World Behind, and it stuck with me a lot. So it's my number 4.
It was the same plot as Next Goal Wins, by the way.
Kevin, do you have any thoughts on this movie?
I have plenty of thoughts on this movie. I don't think we have enough time to go into all of them, unfortunately. I fucking love
Obama conspiracy.
That came up. I think from my perspective, because I was able to pick up on a lot of things that apparently a lot of people missed, it gave the movie a completely different meaning for me.
Like what?
The White Line ship, the boat that's coming in. You have this white family, affluent, sitting on a beach, not really paying attention as impending doom is coming towards them. There's a lot right there alone. Then, of course, if you do know the history of the White Line ship, you know that that's where the first Africans came to Virginia for the slave trade. So there is those kind of messages throughout the entire movie where I'm picking up Point Pleasant. I'm picking up little things, the painting on the wall, the QR code that pops up during the big map of everything going crazy on the TV. There's so much stuff in it that I had to watch a second time. I definitely try to find videos for more things to find out about it. It's a challenging movie because it plays one hand the straightforwardness of it, like the world's coming to an end, and it's brilliant in that aspect. The performances, fucking phenomenal. Even Kevin Bacon, who doesn't really have much time, I really wanted to see more of him.
And they gave him he could have been a caricature of that
racist bastard,
person,
yeah.
And he's got subtlety.
Yes.
And yeah, I agree. The performances are just off the charts. There's so many times in this movie where it could have gone the normal way or the way that you expected it to, and they go, no. Like even just sort of the dancing and the listening to records between Mahershala and Julia Roberts, they come to sort of the precipice of something, and then they back away, and I was glad for that because it's not just following the typical
right. That's not the movie that should have been. Yeah. But even like with that scene, you notice that she has a very big fondness for black music, not exactly
but
black.
Cannot
people.
dance.
That too, because she's Julia Roberts. But that obviously I'm sure Julia Roberts can dance better than that. But that's a whole part of the idea. Like she embraces aspects of black culture while completely fearing the people who make up black culture. There's some even the reviews about this movie, because this was a very divisive movie, not just for conspiracy theorists, but just in terms of how successful it was telling the story. Almost every negative review referred to Julia Roberts or the daughter as being basically bitches, which is a weird way that came about. It comes with very hateful, which I think says a lot about us as the audience. And of course, the whole Friends thing kind of went over everybody's head, but it's a fantastic movie. I watched it several times. I think, Chris, we talked about it in those first few days of seeing it. Yeah. This was very high on my list, and then other stuff came out. But I really love this movie.
No.
What do you mean the Friends thing went over everybody's head?
The whole thing with people like the little girl finally finding the DVD to be able to watch the last episode. People are like, well, what's the fucking point of that? The stupid way to end the movie. And it's like, I don't think we caught the idea that we're so dependent on technology and that this really, but while she had that one track mind, she was also the person who kept going, oh shit, look at this, then saying, no one listens to me because I'm a kid. And there's a lot of messaging into this movie. Like I said, it's to do a fair thing about this. We don't have the time.
Yeah.
I wish I ultimately loved the movie more, so that would have made my list, but it's right there.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't connect to it at all, to be honest. I felt it was a little long, and I also
understand that.
I also thought it was very, very Black Mirror. You know, I the dependence on technology aside, I think both of you talking this glowingly about it makes me want to revisit it, but I don't know.
I get that.
2 hours and 20 minutes is enough, you know. So
we'll have length of time conversation in a little bit.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So, but listen, again, you two are opinions that I respect, which is why I'm like surprised, but I'm now intrigued to go revisit it. Okay. So length of time conversations, you want to have it?
Besides this show currently?
Well,
okay, let's get out there. There were a shit ton of movies that have come out recently that are not just pushing the 2 hour, 2.5 hour, 3 hour mark, but going above and beyond. No. Okay. No. Just no. We'll continue on the list, please.
Well, so the reason why I say that is that we're still an hour away from eclipsing the runtime of my number 4, which is Killers of the Flower Moon. This is the movie I was saying that it took me like 3 times to get through. This is partially my schedule being what it is. I just don't have 4 hours to go sit through. I have some friends that are film critics that are like, oh, I saw it at New York Film Festival. It was outstanding. And I'm so glad I saw it in the theater. And I was just like, I don't have 4 hours to just go to a movie theater, guys. I'm sorry, I don't. I recognize that it's probably good that it finally went to streaming, or at least on the Vudu that I'm part of. And it's like, okay, I'm going to try it. And I'd get a half hour further each time. Wife and I finally sat down for a Saturday afternoon when the Knicks weren't playing. I was like, okay, I'm going to watch it with you. And I was hooked and I got it. And I think it's a borderline masterpiece from Scorsese. I think the Leo conversation needs to be had, that we're just like taking him for granted. The Lily Gladstone of it all. I know what stinks about the Oscars sometimes is like we're saying, oh, snubs, should have been nominated, this and that. But then when you're the front runner, it's like, actually, is it that good? And it becomes that. And I haven't seen that with Lily Gladstone. The presence that she has for someone that's not as known as Leo, but holds her own in every scene with Leo. The subtlety to the De Niro character, that he's the villain, but he's also charismatic enough and a friend. And the way he manipulates Leo's character throughout the movie.
He also manipulates you as the audience too. It's an interesting
to an extent. I see Kevin disagreeing.
We're not as dumb as Leo, but you could see how he's capturing his imagination.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think for a movie that was billed and what was promoted as like the birth of the FBI, to make it not about the FBI at all was, I think, an outstanding choice, and to make it from the perspective of the native people. I do think it's a little long, like probably too long. And I think that's being Scorsese's age and being like what are you going to do? Cut scenes from my movie? I'm Martin Scorsese. I think enough of it is a masterpiece that I can make it my number 4.
Yep. I had it in my honorables.
Okay.
It was probably like an 11, 12 for me. I for everything that you just said, I agree. I felt like Leo was amazing. Lily Gladstone is amazing. Jesse Plemons is great when he sort of shows up. which is like, with an hour and a half left in the movie.
Oh no, Chris, that's the craziest part about it. It's a movie about the FBI, right? The book is about the FBI, shows up with 55 minutes left.
55 minutes. Okay.
Like 2 hours of that movie goes by before, or 2.5 hours go by before you actually see like them making the pleas to the government to come check out what's going on in the oh my gosh, the Osage is so.
I think when like the way it's gorgeous. I mean, it's this big panoramic sort of epically shot. Who the fuck is this? If my son ordered DoorDash,
I must there.
Anyway,
the Osage. God
sorry about
damn it! Did he fucking have Uber Eats?
Talk about technology. I think it got a little repetitive for me. Because at some point it was, okay, who's the next Indian woman that we need to knock off in order to take the land and get that, to get that money. And it didn't start out that way. But by the end, it felt like it was like, okay, like now we're just going through the progression of what families do we need to take out and who's getting blamed and all that. That ultimately kept it from being higher on my list, but it was long. I was thankful that I was able to watch it on streaming because I could take breaks and all that other stuff and not have to sit through a theater. I think I might have not liked it as much if I had to sit there for 3.5 hours without the ability for a break. I thought it was better than The Irishman, which was also long, but not as good. And yeah, I feel like
kick anyone.
Yeah, I feel like Scorsese, if that's his swan song, great. If not, let an editor do their work next time.
I think it's the exact same feeling I had with The Irishman, which was my number 5 that year too.
Yeah.
Where it's like, no, this didn't have to be 3.5 hours long. I recognize this is one of the greatest auteurs that we have that is just going to do the story he wants to make. I was kind of hooked, guys. I get it that 3.5 hours is a long time for a movie, but the 2 hours and 45 minutes of it, I love, which is enough.
I would say besides the length, which is no, I'm not doing that shit ever again. Changing Leo's character from the real life story to being someone that we can be sympathetic with. Kind of
sympathetic?
Because you feel he's dumb and he's being taken advantage of when in real life he was all in.
Yeah,
and that's a pretty shitty thing to do for the movie.
I thought the movie doesn't let him off the hook by the end, especially with the last interaction.
Interaction, sure, but you get the 3.5 hour runtime where you're like, oh, he's a poor, possibly special needs person, and it's very awkward watching that.
I still push back in
my line.
No,
I'll let
Andrew. I just push back in that the moment have all 4 of us seen it?
It wasn't Gilbert Grape, but
no, it wasn't that extent.
No, but he's given an out, a big out that the real life person did not deserve.
You're 100% right.
I thought maybe this is how I received the performance. I thought in the beginning it was like that. The moment that he goes to visit one of the workers, one of the hitmen that they hire, to take out her sister, was like, oh, like he's not as redeemable as you think. And then when he starts to poison her was when I was like, oh no, this is like you're not forgivable in this sense. You're not redeemable. Then when you get to he literally goes to one of the henchmen to be like, this is your job. This is what you have to do. He's giving marching orders. I do agree that like it's played off in a way that could be perceived that way, which I don't disagree with your interpretation of it. I don't know. By the end, I was like, yeah, even if you seem redeemable, you're not. If you're just kind of like, I thought that was part of the ethos to the character.
I would say if you do that by the end of a 3.5 hour movie, That's a lot of time that you let the guy
goes back to runtime. Yeah. Okay.
It's not a bad movie. I don't think I never see another Scorsese movie ever again. I'm done with him completely.
That is what if he comes in with like an hour 45 barn burner that everybody is like, holy shit.
No, I will always love Goodfellas. I'll leave it at that. He has a great reputation based upon movies that, if we're being honest, a lot of us saw a long time ago. We don't really watch Mean Streets all the time. If you do, good for you. Taxi Driver is another great movie. Goodfellas, and I'm good. We're done with them. Talented as fuck, but I don't need to see another shit again.
Okay.
3.5-hour movie? Goddamn shit.
That's
nuts.
Okay. I respectfully disagree, but I
don't give a fuck.
Again, respectfully, that's all. I've got Silence, I've got Casino, I've got Wolf of Wall Street.
Silence.
Yeah, Silence, I don't know. I'm okay with that too.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like Wolf of Wall Street.
Wolf of Wall Street is my number 2.
Cocaine and nakedness. Like, yeah, that's great. But like,
it's deeper than that.
I'm okay. No, not really.
It is.
We've gotten to the point where we just give people flowers constantly over old shit. And it's like, I'm ready for the new wave. We're still holding on to the past, quite honestly. Look at any movie coming out right now. We're holding on to the past so damn hard because we can't take chances because of the business of things. I get that, but fuck, we could be doing so much better.
Yeah, and I guess, yeah. For me, it's not a bad movie at all, and it had a lot of bloat. But like, yeah, I'm not like, you seem angry with it, Kevin. I'm not at all.
I'm only angry that they made me sit through 3.5 hours of this. If it was a 2-hour movie, possibly could have enjoyed it. I remember the look, because Rachel and I watched it, I guess, was on Apple TV, because she was never going to sit through this at the movies. And I understood that. I was going to make her do that. We're watching it at home. And besides the fact that I know she zoned out several times, at the end, she's like, what'd you think? And I'm like, I'm good. I literally said to her, I don't think I've never seen one of his movies ever again. I've gone down that road. It's not for me.
Okay. That's fair. I don't hold it against you. It's very much for me, which is why it's my number 4. Speaking of, Kevin, your number 4.
And this is yet another movie that was very difficult. My top 3 were pretty much locks. This one, this one going into it, I expected this to be good. I thought, because I do have intimate knowledge of the actual real life story. Much like how I felt about DiCaprio's change for character for the movie, this one was troubling for me because there are multiple characters where I know what they, or at least I think I know what they're really like, that you don't really get across in this movie. Sean Durkin's Iron Claw is fantastic, well made. The performance is great. Zac Efron, while I don't think he really should have been put in that, should have had a nomination talk, people were saying that. I can't fully argue against that. He is amazing. But going to the story, because obviously if you're a wrestling fan, which I am, you do know the Von Erich story. It's fucking awful. It's tragic. Watching the movie, I didn't really expect him to go as far as actual story is, because one, it took out an entire brother. There's just too much trauma.
Oh, there's a lot they didn't.
Wait, a lot, but even like little things like besides Zac Efron not even looking remotely like Kevin Von Erich outside of the haircut, because Kevin was a taller, not say slim, but definitely didn't have that stocky build.
Definitely didn't have.
What's the Jeremy Allen White, Kerry Von Erich? The 6'2" like Greek god Kerry Von Erich was played by a 5'7" guy, and normally stuff like that doesn't have too much of be too much of a problem for a movie. But when you're seeing him in relation to that scene with his father at the end, and they're like, giving each other a hug and everything, it's like he looks like a little boy.
Just
and at that point in time, he's supposed to be
took me right out of it.
Number 3 movie that he's so far explaining everything that he's not happy about.
Because he wanted to be the Dark Side of the Ring episode.
This is
that's basically what it is, because it has been done better. Obviously, even the documentary WCCW is phenomenal. I really loved everything about this while watching it, but those things were just so troubling to get over. Because I'm saying Jeremy Allen White would not be the size that Kerry Von Erich would need to be a WWF star in the 80s where everyone's on fucking steroids.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's one of those things where it shouldn't be a huge issue, but watching was like, this doesn't really ring true. That aside, the story's it's heartbreaking. Because, I mean, the story is heartbreaking. There's a family that's, which the movie didn't really go into the reasons why they thought it so much, but like there's a family curse and everything goes bad and everything does fucking go bad. So that when you do have a moment of levity where you're seeing the family together right before, you're going to go off a cliff, you don't want to watch, because you see the happiness in what they're doing. You see the love. You see the brothers will always stand together, and then they no longer can. And by the end of that movie, it was emotional. I was kind of crushed. I guess, once again, being a fan put me in that spot, but also being a fan kind of took me out because I knew the real story. That's why this isn't hard. I really thought this was going to be my 1 or 2 this year, simply for the nature of the story. And to be 4 is not bad at all, by the way. Did love it, but it just missed for those reasons.
I was about to say 4 is like, out of all the movies you saw, it's like the top 1%. Like, that's actually really high praise.
Yeah.
And I would say this, like I posted on Facebook, I stopped watching a shit ton of movies because, quite honestly, a lot of it's not worth it. There's no reason why I needed to watch the Winnie the Pooh movie. You know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But then I got lucky because while I watched probably half the movies I usually watch, a majority of them I fucking loved. My real list is like top 40. I had a difficult time getting it down to these 10. Like I said, interchangeable. There are certain aspects of one that I really loved, aspects of another that are completely different. But I thought this was an overall great year for movies, and this was number 4.
Awesome. Yeah, this is my one of my biggest blind spots. I have not gotten a chance to get out to the movies to see this. Andrew, you shared me a link that it will be dropping on streaming on Tuesday.
Literally Tuesday. So really? If we did this a week ago, if we did this a week later, maybe it makes your list. Chris, is it on your? No, the other person, Tim, is it on your list?
It's an honorable mention. For me. Just because I felt like the problems I had with it are the same problems Kev had with it, and I felt like they skipped over a lot. But to their credit, there's a lot to go over. But I felt like the Dark Side of the Ring episode was the superior product, so I wasn't overall impressed.
So
but it was still good.
This actually teased me up perfectly because we'll do. It's my number 3.
Cool.
And
I got to do 3.
Well, so what I'm saying is we'll have the Iron Claw conversation, and then we'll skip over my number 3 to do your number 4. Or to do your number 3. So the both of you, because of you grew up on wrestling and you have so much backstory and knowledge of the original story, it's almost like air for me in that, like, I knew going in what the story was, so there wasn't a lot of stakes. And when they have those moments of togetherness and like the wedding scene, and you're able to see where the screenplay is leading you, like, oh, this is gonna fucking hurt the rest of the next hour of the movie. So I will just give you the firsthand experience that I had. This was a double feature for me. In fact, I put the screenshot into the group chat that I'm seeing this and something else, and I will tell you about my other thing a little later. But imagine going into this blind, having no idea what the second hour of this movie was going to be.
Oh, shit. Which is what I'm going to be when I watch this movie, because I have no.
You have no idea
knowledge of what the Von Erich brothers went through or the family went through.
My goodness. Really? Then I will. Then that I will hold. I will just say the second hour of this movie, guys, quite literally flattened me, and the fact that. The double feature of it all made that Wednesday a very interesting Wednesday.
That's rough.
But you mentioned Zac Efron's performance. I thought there was a quietness to what he has to do and what he has to be for his family. There's a scene early in the movie where he's talking to Lily James and talks about his older brother, and then talks about the family curse. And I'm just like. It's very much Ray Romano, like, oh, you can do this. And what's funny is he's become a caricature. Like I'm as the younger one, like I was 17, like me and Zach are the same age. Like I was 17 when High School Musical came out, and I saw the hysteria around girls my age. Like, oh, like, okay, he's now the guy for the next couple of years. And all of his post that era performances, like he's had a couple comedies that are good. He's had like the Ted Bundy movie, he was okay, but I prefer the Netflix documentary instead. I was just like, okay, this is you peaked in high school, literally is where I was going. And like the way that his body has transformed over the years, a lot of the times I'm like, you look hungry. And the way that they cast him perfectly, where it's the need is to be a quieter performance, to endure everything that happens until he finally snaps in the last 10 minutes. My God. And I won't spoil it for Chris, but the last 10 minutes of the movie, literally his last conversation was heartbreaking. And I'll go a step further, Kev. I was like hoping an awards campaign was created. They released the movie on Christmas, and who's going to see that on Christmas?
You have that issue. A24 also shot themselves in the foot because they put all their focus on two movies and kind of said, well, fuck the other ones.
Yeah, no, that's, I mean, it happens with a lot of studios, yes. But to your point, like the other two worked, so, yeah, I'm actually, maybe this is the setup for the next episode that we do, that I want to hear Chris's thoughts on Iron Claw, because I was utterly devastated by the end of this movie. And as somebody, again, who went in blind, had only a hint of knowledge of 80s wrestling and the territories and all of that. Yeah, I was genuinely like blown away by this movie. So the Iron Claw was my number 3.
I'm excited to watch it.
Which then sets up Kevin.
Knowing that I'm going to be utterly shattered.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, like literally I have no knowledge of anything other than it's
even worse than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
It's even worse than that. Do yourself a favor. Have you seen the Dark Side of the Ring, Andrew?
I haven't, but so I saw the Owen Hart one, and okay. I know like it exists. I just haven't seen that one.
Yeah. That's a good one. That one and the Canyon one really get me in the feels.
The Chris Benoit one I saw too, which was surreal.
Sure.
I don't want to talk about
that's
that.
That's a laugh riot.
A laugh riot.
That's
so
rough.
Kevin, you're number 3.
Finally, thank God I got something happy to talk about. My number 3 is Zone of Interest.
So
somebody just said they didn't see it. Who?
I didn't see it.
There's a blind spot for me.
Yep.
I saw it, and this was the double feature I was talking about.
Yes.
So imagine seeing Zone of Interest and then following up with the Iron Claw.
Andrew went home and kicked his cat.
Yeah. Just to feel something. Oh man.
Here's the problem. The problem with Zone of Interest marketing is I think they give away a little bit too much. But then again, what else could you possibly? This is a hard movie to describe, and I'm trying not to say things because I think you need to experience it. It's brutal. It's a brutal fucking watch. It's basically how evil people can actually be without realizing how evil they are. I would say sound design. Yeah, I don't know how to discuss this one right now.
Well, so here's what I'll say, because It's higher for me. And I will just say the tough part about, like, I actually think we can have a conversation about it. The elevator pitch, for those who have no idea what the zone of interest is, a high-ranking military general in the Nazi army during World War II, he and his family lived next to Auschwitz and during the Holocaust. And
like shares a gate.
Like literally the fence is right next to. So you watch what's going on in their lives through their perspectives, and you hear what's going on the other side of the fence.
On the side of the Jesus.
It is, my goodness.
Tough.
Like the actual, and can't believe I'm saying this, when you see it a second time, it hits you even harder when you're actually listening and you're actually picking up on some of the themes, because it's told in it. Date night, actually. I took my wife to the city for a movie. She wanted to see it. And what the funny thing is, I don't know how to be like, I loved it. No, I was just
Chris took me on a date to Schindler's List, so I get it.
Well, there you go. Great double feature. Kev, I don't know if you want to echo this, but like, the amount of times that you're just like watching what's happening on one side of the wall, but hearing, and that I think is what's so brilliant about the direction and the sound design, is like they make you imagine the worst imaginable thing that humanity can do on the other side of the wall.
It's just like Dante's Inferno screaming. Like, what the fuck?
I'd honestly go a step further. Like it's
what?
I think it's one of the more creative Holocaust movies I've ever seen.
Watch it when you can.
Yeah, it's impactful too. My goodness, man.
And like I said before, that Oppenheimer's probably going to win. This one probably should win.
I would echo that. Yeah. I'll just we'll get it out. It's my number one of the year. Like obviously, it was my number one. Like that's how blown away by it I was. And there's a part of it. There's an actual scene in it that elevated it to my number one.
I know what you're talking about.
That'll wait until you guys see.
Well, I'm embarrassed by my number one then.
So Zone of Interest, my number one.
Strays? Was Strays your number one?
I feel like Kevin. No, Dick's the musical.
It was Muppet Treasure Island.
There you go. Okay. Kevin, I feel like I hijacked it. Do you have anything else to add of Zone of Interest?
No, because no.
Wait till they see it.
Wait until they see it.
Yeah. As soon as I can, I am.
Yeah, as soon as it's available.
This week it wasn't in any theaters, but it also wasn't in streaming. So I was like in a weird zone where I just couldn't see it.
So this is a very cool rain check, is that when Iron Claw and Zone of Interest come out, maybe we'll see things that Tim saw too. Well, that'll be the next episode we do.
Things that Tim saw. This movie was not available for a long time. I live in Boca Raton. Like, this is the audience. Let's be honest. This is the audience I would have been. And I'm kind of fucking surprised that it took forever to get here. And then even when it came here, it was a last second edition. Because they didn't release like the schedule next week.
I think you texted me too that you were like the only person in the theater also.
When I bought the ticket, it was the only person. By the time it started, there was maybe 8 or 9 other people. And it was one of those things where at the beginning there was a couple older couples and people were talking, because that's what we do in Florida, apparently, watch movies. And then after maybe the first 5 minutes, dead silence throughout the rest. And that was a slow, silent walkout. At the it's tough. It's tough.
Oh, terrific.
So they were on Chris, your number 3.
We already talked about it. I had American Fiction as the highest of all of us on my list. So then, Tim, you're number 3.
You're 3, and then you're number 2.
So my number 3 was Anatomy of a Fall.
Okay.
I don't know where this ranked for everybody else.
I had it at 8.
Yeah,
I had it at 8 also.
Kevin's got it
slightly higher.
Slightly. Okay.
So why don't we just, do we want to talk about it now?
Yeah. So where is it for you, Kev?
My number 2.
Number 2.
So please lead then.
basically, this was, I think, towards the end of the year, I everything's a blur. Finally was available to rent. I didn't really know much going into it outside of the fact that it was getting a lot of buzz. And Sandra Hüller,
same lady Sandra from Zone of Interest, apparently. Which, quite
honestly, holy shit, what a fucking year!
Seriously,
France really fucked up because they in terms of foreign film, what was the name of it? The Taste of Honey. Is that right?
I believe
Taste of Things.
Taste of Things. Thank you. Yeah. That was their
Taste
pick.
of Honey was a strip club in Hempstead.
Hello. That was their pick for France's representation in Best Foreign Film, basically because it was all about putting France in a good light. They wanted to show off the land, the food, blah, blah, and all that, where their two best movies of the year, I think I just mentioned. Zone of Interest should have been.
That's a French film?
Yeah. And,
okay.
And Now Fall probably, really should have won. Because, I mean, hell, if you end up both movies getting Best Picture nominations, they just shot themselves in the ass with that. But Night Fall, they said, I didn't really know much about the story. I mean, I guess, from the title alone, you can kind of figure some things out. As it's starting to play out, and then you get like the Calypso version of PIMP, I think I started to lose my fucking mind. It's like, is this a comedy? Is this like, is what's going on here? And as the story progresses, you're like, fuck. And Chris mentioned before the whole French justice system doesn't exist, apparently.
And those fucking robes that the prosecutor wore. I mean, come on.
Yeah. I didn't know how much was realistic until afterwards. I had to look it up. It's like, what's their, legal system really like? I was like, oh, fuck, that's dark. That shit, like you said, you can just make up, this is my opinion. This is what I think happened. Prove me wrong. I'm like, how could you prove, a made up opinion wrong?
Right.
It's just complete conjecture.
Absolutely. The performances are fantastic. The boy, Milo something, Graner, or not 100% sure. He could have been the precocious little kid, but he comes in with a great performance. I think he does have some minor faults here and there, but once again, it's a child actor. If you get something good at him, hey, good for it. Each step of the way,
he did.
Yeah, each step of the way, and it's kind of cool. Like, you don't really need to know what actually happened. And I think it's very brilliant. Chris and I talked about this, their gimmicky marketing thing of, what do you think really happened? Don't need to do that. Don't need, just do the movie. I hate that kind of shit. And like you mentioned for another movie, not trusting the audience to be smart enough to figure out on their own. Give us, give us a chance to do that. We're not as dumb as we look and act. But this is a movie that really stuck with me for a while. I revisited it almost immediately. And then I probably think about it every week since I've seen it, mostly because of PIMP, which quite honestly, that has to open up the Oscar telecast.
Right.
That needs to fucking happen. If they didn't
just the Calypso version, not the actual version.
No, right. bring 50 out.
Yeah.
Let them whole song. Like you have to do that. That was so fucking brilliant. Like I said, it went from I don't know where this is going to holy shit, this is a movie.
Yeah.
We don't make movies like that here.
Right. The thing that you become more interested in than actually trying to wonder if they're going to solve this case for you is what took place in their relationship. Like that becomes the thing that you are most intrigued and interested by. And it does a great job of sort of showing you multiple sides and how you can see both sides. At one minute, you're like, oh, yeah, he's being sort of dismissive and he's not holding her in as much regard as she should be. And then, you see it from another angle and you're like, she's a fucking distant bitch, kind of like. And I think to the movie's credit, I mean, not to, like it just like the visceral reactions to both sides of their relationship it really makes you like just sort of like that becomes the focus of the movie. Like whether or not she pushed him or he fell, like that becomes the mystery. How did this relationship start? And then how did it get to a point? Even just the mystery of like what happened to the kid. Like all of that is the stuff. That's the main course that you're really focused on. And it does such a good job of doling it out in a way that just kind of keeps you on the edge of your seat for a movie that's just basically a courtroom drama, but it feels like so much more.
Yeah, to echo what you're saying, Chris, like the way that the prosecution paints her as like a distant bitch, and yet like the whole point of it is like, yeah, she may be, that does not make her a murderer, and that's our American sensibilities and our justice system, which isn't always the greatest, obviously, but to then go through like, oh, but in my opinion, and that be like the courtroom and the legal drama of it all was riveting. And then there's the perspective of her son that I think is what landed it on my top 10. Yeah, there's just a lot to love in this one for me, at least, you know?
Yeah.
Tim.
Agreed. Yeah. There's not much more I can say. It's the legal drama unfolding. The performances are great. She's fantastic.
Yes,
she really is.
She makes you feel every beat of it.
That scene at the end where she says, "I've won. I feel like I should be feeling more than this." There's just so much to that, and then they like get real close, and then like because there's so many elements of like, you know, her ability to just in her existence and the way she is in her personality, just able to sort of in the air manipulate people around her, and the fact that the lawyer is just enamored with her, and really through no sort of direct action of hers, it's just how sort of she influences those around her. Like that scene where they just kind of just come right up to the edge and then don't. Again, like Past Lives and other movies we talked about on these lists, movies that make the right choice of not giving you exactly what you think is going to happen, they stick with you so much more than the ones that do.
Agreed. All right, so that was three. Tim's number 3. So we're at your number 2, Tim.
My number 2. So it was a close call between a movie that I had complete fun with and saw a couple of times in the theater because I had so much fun with it, and then a movie that I know probably should and will win an Oscar this year. But I went with the fun movie for number 2. My number 2 movie is Thanksgiving.
Oh, okay.
That was number 6 on my previous top 10, and it's in my honorables tonight.
It's on honorables too. I love this movie, Tim.
So good.
I had so much fun with this movie, and I think it was so unexpected. I expected garbage. Like, to be perfectly honest, it's expected
tough to top that trailer from Grindhouse, because when you think about the beats of that trailer, you don't really need a movie. Like, nope. That's it. Like, it's perfect. And you know the plot of that movie. You get all the major plot points. You get a little bit of nudity. You get some violence. Like that encapsulates everything that you'd want out of Thanksgiving. So while I think a lot of horror fans like, oh man, I'd love to see that full movie. There's more risk there's more ability to fuck it up than there is to make it right. So the fact that they're successful with it is amazing.
Yeah. Amazing. It's so fun. It's just a fun movie. And I think for a long time I lost that, just go to the movies and have fun. vibe because I've been overly critical of a lot of things. And there's been a lot of shit. I mean, I sat through that fucking Exorcist movie. That was, I mean, I'll never, David Gordon Green could fucking.
Yeah. Once I saw Halloween Ends, I was like, yeah, fuck this guy.
The Exorcist, whatever the subtitle name is. It's the last movie on my Letterboxd list. It's that bad.
It's god awful. It's god awful. So to walk into a movie expecting not a lot and get, 2 hours of fun.
Yeah, I just real quick, and I don't mean to interrupt you. It was a 10 o'clock Sunday morning showing before Thanksgiving. I stopped at the bar at the AMC theaters and I got a 20-ounce IPA. I sat down. I texted Kevin a picture of me holding the beer, telling him that I was going to see this movie. And 15 minutes in, I said, absolutely, if this movie sucks for the rest of the movie, the first 15 minutes is worth the price of admission. 100%. And it didn't suck for the rest of the movie.
100%. 100%. Absolutely. Even Tim Dillon, he was great in it. Everybody I liked in it. And it was just fun. So that's my number 2, Thanksgiving. Like, honestly, I know it's high up. I know it's campy, unexpected, but I've not had more fun sitting in a movie than watching Thanksgiving this year.
That's all that matters.
Yeah, man. Right. I saw it in the movie once and I watched it at home twice. It is so much fun.
It's fun.
And if you get a chance, listen to Mick Garris's postmortem podcast where he interviews Eli Roth. They talk a lot about just making the movie and, like why it was successful and why it works. But
I'm sure the sequel will be terrible, but
it could have been an absolute disaster, and it wasn't. It was great. It was so much fun.
It's fun. So that's my 2.